Good afternoon and welcome to the Embedded Executive Podcast. I'm Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design. This week, my guest is Ann Olivo, who happens to wear two hats. She's the Vice President of Marketing for the Thread Group, and she is a and I got this wrong, campaigns manager for Silicon Labs.
That's right. The corporate campaigns manager is part of our global corporate marketing team.
But before we get into Thread Start, because what I want to talk about, what does that job entail? What do you do at Silicon Labs?
Yeah, so at Silicon Labs, I'm part of the global marketing team, and we work really closely with our product marketing team and the engineers on bringing their stories to life. Essentially, they're the ones that are building the products and helping to define what the story is. And then it's my team's job to make sure that that story is being amplified across our different marketing channels. So whether that's blog posts or press releases or social media emails, making sure that the story is getting to the right people.
So you're the liaison between the engineers who always tell the truth and the marketing people. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so
That and with my background as a linguist, I kind of joke about that I'm kind of translating the engineering speak into, how the rest of the world speaks.
There you go. There you go. So for the audience's sake, we met last week at the Unify event, which is put on by the CSA, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and one of the big topics there was Thread. And it actually played a pretty big role at the event. There was a lot of talk about it. And my question for you there, which I'm going to ask you again, this isn't a new technology. It's not a new protocol. Why all of a sudden is it in the spotlight?
It's such a great question. And I was really excited to see that last week as well, that with all of the conversations around the future of the IoT, and really the future of IoT being based on IP, I think that's where Thread comes into the picture. Why now in particular? I think that there are a number of reasons. One of them, over the past couple of years, we're seeing huge amounts of devices being certified to the Thread spec over the past couple of years. In the smart home side, we see that being really tied to what's going on with the Matter ecosystem. As more folks are adopting Matter and they're looking to decide which transport they should be building their Matter devices on, looking at whether that's, Matter works over different IP-based transports, whether that's Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or Thread. As folks are looking to build devices that have power constraints, Thread is a really obvious choice. So as we're starting to see more of these products come to market, they need to go through Thread certification as well. So I think that's one aspect of it.
So I think you might have answered my next question, at least part of it. Seemingly everything is connected to Wi-Fi. So why not just build your device to Wi-Fi?
It's another really great question that we get. Wi-Fi was built for a different purpose, and Wi-Fi is great at what it does. If you need something with high throughput, like absolutely Wi-Fi is a great choice for that. So something like a camera device where you need to have all of that visual information transmitted, Wi-Fi works great. But for devices that have power constraints, so things like window sensors or door locks. Door locks is a really common one that we hear where consumers hate to have to change the batteries on their door locks. And so Thread, with its ultra low power consumption, enables you to have a door lock that then the batteries don't need to be replaced quite as often as they would if you chose to do something like Wi-Fi.
Does Thread, at least in its current stage, is it somewhat of a chicken and egg thing where if I build my device, I don't know if there's going to be enough devices to connect to it?
Yeah, that's another really great question. I think one of the challenges that Thread has seen is just educating the market on like how to build a Thread network. So we've seen some coverage of this where a consumer might bring home a Thread device and not realize that a Thread device also needs a border router device, the Thread border router, which in the Wi-Fi world, like it just seems so obvious. Consumers know that if they have a device, if they're going to bring home a device and connect it to the internet, they need to have a Wi-Fi router for that, right? You need to have that access point to actually to connect it. And the same is true for Thread. That Thread needs a Thread border router for those devices to connect and create the mesh. However, Thread border routers are now being built into devices that a lot of consumers already have. So I think this is the other reason why I think we're starting to see more Thread devices in market is because of the proliferation of the Thread border router. The Thread border router is built into a lot of common like smart speakers that are available in market from the major ecosystems. They're being built into TVs and other streamer applications. And as Matter just or recently announced their HRAP device type, so that's the home routers and access point device type. For folks who want to bring those kinds of devices to market with Matter certification, they also need to support the Thread border router. And the whole purpose there is that if consumers bring home those Matter badged devices, they should just work. And so by proliferating the Thread border router, it's starting to become easier and easier.
Might it be integrated into a Wi-Fi router?
Yes, that is the intention. Absolutely.
Is that happening today?
We haven't seen it yet, but I've had some conversations with folks, and I expect to see that we're going to start to see more of that soon.
That seems like such an obvious choice, but is it? I know when you get into different protocols and the same equipment, you run into interference issues with your antennas and things. Is it hard to design something like that?
Gosh, that's a great question. And I have not heard any kind of difficulties around that from the folks that I've worked with. But I can dig in and get back to you on that with some more technical specifications. But
Okay.
no, I haven't heard that that's necessarily a challenge.
Now you said it's the border router is being integrated in devices like I can't even say the name because the box on my desk is going to light up and ask me what I want. But the speaker that's on my desk, as well as the television, does that act as your hub?
So it can act as Thread border routers can be part of the Matter controller. That is essentially the hub or the administrator of the Matter network. So yes, it just kind of depends on how the network is set up and which devices come online first. So like in my home, I've got two smart speakers. Actually, I've got three different smart speakers that all have Thread border routers built in, but the one that is kind of the main border router is just the first one that I turned on. And now the rest of them kind of just join that same Thread network.
Is there a way to know whether your device has a Thread border router in it?
That is another great question. So last week, one of the things that the Thread group announced is the Thread Tools app. So this is a new app that we launched in beta last week. It's available on iOS and Android. And essentially what this tool will do once you open up the app on your phone, you just tell it to scan the network for your Thread devices, and it will surface any Thread devices that it finds, including the Thread border routers.
That actually sounds like something we shouldn't just gloss over. Where would somebody find that app?
Yeah, so you could search the name of the app is Thread Tools. And you can find it on both the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store. But I can also send you a link to share with your listeners from the Thread Group's website that has those direct links that they can download it. I
Yeah,
should
that'd be great.
mention it is available on Test Flight and the iOS store right now because it's still in beta. But I'll provide those links to make it easy for folks to download.
Is that an app for developers or for home users?
So really it's both. However, the initial phase and the first phase that we're in right now is really meant for developers. We had been getting some feedback within our membership that, of course, the silicon providers do their lab testing of kind of how these networks are formed and how they self-heal and so on and so forth. But that's often very different from how consumers are actually deploying these networks in their homes. So the original intention was to provide that layer of visibility to developers who are building these devices in more real-world applications.
Okay. Now, Thread predates Matter. So is it backward compatible? And where I'm going with this is I'm asking about this, the security that comes with Matter. Are the older versions of Thread as secure as the newer versions that are Matter compliant?
Yes, absolutely. Thread was really built to be secure by design. And really the security that we see in Matter is a little bit different from the security mechanisms that we've implemented in Thread. Um, Thread was built, I think the key differentiator for Thread is the fact that it uses cryptographic keys instead of user-generated passwords. So, as like, for example, if a consumer brings home a Wi-Fi router and they want to configure their settings, they can go in and change their password, right? But oftentimes they come with those default passwords, and having default passwords, as we know as an industry, is not a great practice. So Thread from the beginning decided we don't want to do that. We don't want to kind of leave it to potential user error. And so we've implemented those secure cryptographic keys from the start. Matter on the other side, some of the security mechanisms that they're employing, like the device attestation certificates, that helps. And by using the distributed compliance ledger, that blockchain technology that allows, basically it allows a Matter administrator device, when a new device comes online, it can check that the DCL, the distributed compliance ledger, to say, hey, was this device actually Matter certified? Is this a legitimate certificate? And it says yes, and then it onboards that device. So it's kind of at a different level from the security that Thread provides at the network level.
Very good. So last question. Let's look into the crystal ball a little bit. If we're having this conversation a year from now, what are we talking about? Like, what are the goals of the Thread group over the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other features that we talked about last week at Unify is a new feature that we're building called Thread Direct. And that's going to enable, the intention there is that it will enable direct point-to-point communication between Thread devices. And so what we are envisioning for that feature is that it will essentially remove some of that day one friction that consumers sometimes experience. In that, if they bring home a device, they don't realize that they needed a border router, or maybe they don't have a smart speaker in their home. Enabling that point-to-point connection will allow for consumers to onboard those devices using devices that already have Thread built in. So you might have seen some announcements. I think Broadcom made an announcement that they were supporting Thread in their silicon a number of years ago, maybe a year or 2 years ago. Qualcomm also made an announcement earlier this year that they're also supporting Thread. So we see that the silicon that is available today for chipset manufacturers, or for mobile device manufacturers, is having Thread built in. And so as we're seeing more of these mobile phones supporting Thread, we see real potential for people to be able to bring these devices online without needing the Thread border router. Now, the Thread border router will remain a critical piece of the Thread infrastructure, but I think that I'm hoping that in the next year we see more of those home router device types start to support the Thread border router, and then also having this Thread Direct mechanism where consumers can connect these devices using their mobile devices. I think we're really going to start to see Thread proliferate everywhere, and it will be easier to build with some of the things that we've been resources that we've been rolling out, and then easier to use by consumers as well.
Just plug it in and it works, right?
That's the goal, man.
See your lips to God's ears. Is that what they say? Very good. Well, I certainly hope that comes true. And I thank you for your time for helping to educate the audience a little bit.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Rich.
That was Ann Olivo. She is the Vice President of Marketing for the Thread Group, and she is I got this wrong before
Corporate
too.
Campaigns Manager.
Corporate Campaigns Manager for Silicon Labs. And I am Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design. Have a great day, Ann.
You too.